Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. We are back in the East Dulwich Tavern. Thank you very much to the East Dulwich Tavern for having us. I am joined, you are joined by Michael McCubbin and Henry. Hey. Woo! We're back, baby. It's Thursday afternoon. This goes live on a Friday. How are we doing? Henry first, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you. I've been accused of not matching your intensity in the intros, and I want everyone to know I'm buzzing to be here. We've had a few technical nightmares over the last hour, but hey.
Just the one light today.
You can't put a price on time with friends, you know? So yeah, very excited. Lots of football, hard to keep track of everything at the moment, but I'm sure we'll crunch through it all this afternoon.
I like it. McCubbs, if you had to put a price on appearing on Continental Club, how much would you pay?
How much would I pay?
Yeah.
Or be paid?
Or be paid, technically.
I don't know. I'd pay a tenner. Why not?
A tenner and a good sandwich, I reckon.
Yeah.
That's about the price.
I'd say actually pro rata you're paid about 30 quid to be here. So I think that's roughly the rate. But yeah, I do it for free.
Plus labour costs. I do drag a bag that's falling apart.
It does through the whole of Dulwich.
Yeah, and my back is not my best friend for it. But yeah.
Well, you can bill Sky for your physio bills, I reckon.
Exactly.
Anyway, let us get into today's show. Today, we're talking about the signing that will win your side the title. As you know, on Football Daily, we'll be doing a lot of signing and transfer content this month, of course, being in January. There's about 10 days left of the window. But it could prove to be a monumental few days for teams up and down the league. But today we want to focus on those at the top. There are some tight title races around Europe. There are just 4 points separating the La Liga title race after Sevilla drew last night. There's 2 in Serie A, although Inter do have a game in hand. There's only 1 in the Eredivisie, which we talked about on this week's podcast, which I recommend you go and watch after watching this. And there is 3 in the Primeira Liga, and we often get criticised for not talking about Portuguese football, so we're going to do a bit of that today. But we're going to kick off with a transfer that has been suggested by @ValTheSeaPigeon, which is my favourite, Twitter handle we've ever been provided with, and it's Eden Hazard to Milan on loan. Henry, in this hypothetical scenario where this could happen, I think it has been talked about, but it doesn't feel like it's actually going to happen. Do you think it would be a good move?
You know what? When I uploaded this document to read it earlier, and I saw that suggestion, I thought,
big up ValTheSeaPigeon.
Yeah, great name, as you say. One of my favourite of the birds. But whether or not Eden Hazard, yeah, I think this would be great. I thought about this for a little bit, and I think this could be the kind of perfect move. It says here like maybe a 6-month loan deal with an option to buy. The reality is, Milan can't afford his wages, so I don't think he'd ever really go there permanently. But on a 6-month loan, 18-month loan, bear in mind the World Cup's next year, and he's still involved in the Belgium squad, very much so. I think it would be a really good opportunity for him to go to a club and get some minutes under his belt. I mean, we've raked over his move to Real Madrid a fair few times. Obviously, in my opinion, one of the most unfortunate, but probably the greatest disaster in terms of a transfer fee ever paid. I mean, it is difficult. 100 million euros, sorry. 5 goals and 10 assists in 59 games for the club. You can hardly even get off the bench at the moment. Fair enough, to be honest. Real Madrid have got a pretty settled side going forward. Look, Gareth Bale's back, can't even get in the squad, can he, at the moment? So, yeah, I think at least Hazard's ahead of him in that rank, and I think that's more testament to his character. I think he is a good professional. I think he seems to be some of the teammates like having around, and for those reasons alone, I feel as if a move to Milan could be really interesting. If you look at a team going forward, that's sometimes where they do maybe lack a little bit of bite. Rafa Leão, great player, don't get me wrong, maybe not scoring quite the level of goals that is required for a sort of Serie A winning team. Salamakis as well, I think, is a player that could be upgraded. In all honesty, Brahim Diaz has had a bit of a tricky last few months. He's having an explosive start to the season, but has dropped off a little bit. And why not have someone like Hazard go in there? They've got a very young squad. Only two players over the age of 27. Both very old though, aren't they? Like Giroud and Ibrahimovic really pushing the numbers up there. I think that someone like Hazard could go there. And even if he plays just half the remaining games of the season, I think he'll get more minutes and moments on the pitch at AC Milan than he would do certainly for this Real Madrid side at the moment. I mean, his numbers, I think when he played well for Madrid, he was doing all right. 3.3 key passes, 2.7 dribbles. He's just really hampered by this injury record that he's picked up over the last few years. I think I was researching him the other day, and he's the most fouled player in the last decade in terms of in Europe's top 5 leagues. Over 1,000 fouls have come his way, and I think it was over 200.
He used to get hacked in the Premier League.
over 200 more than Neymar, who's getting fouled at like every 24 minutes or something like that. It's a ridiculous rate for PSG. So and also what is stunning about Hazard is up until he moved to Real Madrid, he was averaging like about 60 games for club and country every year without fail. So it
Rarely
really
injured, yeah.
Exactly. It really was just that one summer where his body just switched off. And you do see that sometimes when
I think he might have switched off a little bit when he got there.
well, these
You
footballers,
love bringing out the teams, don't you? You love it.
these footballers do have to like keep themselves at a certain level for an extended period of time. And then I think that even like the slight rupture and change can cause effects. And we've seen that here. So it is unfortunate to see his demise at Real Madrid, but I think to go to a team like AC Milan, I think it's something that he would be very interested in, and I genuinely think he could contribute towards whether or not they're going to win the league this year. It's hard to say. I think it's certainly between them and Inter Milan, but keeping them on course for a second place finish, Champions League football next year, I think that'd be a perfect move.
Okay, there we have it. There we have the positive side from Henry Hill, and I think you make some good points. He is a very well-liked teammate. I think even at Real Madrid, he's incredibly popular in that dressing room. I think he's obviously got a real winning mentality. He's won league titles in 3 countries as well, which is really, really impressive. Not many players can say that. And yes, his output, his delivery at Real Madrid just hasn't been good enough, but his body hasn't allowed it to. So for him, a 6-month loan move to Milan would be awesome. But McCubs, would you worry about, Henry mentioned Rafael, and he has started getting going on that left-hand side a little bit more on the left flank.
Yeah.
Would you worry about his development being stopped by someone like Hazard coming in, and would you maybe target a different area of the team?
Potentially. I mean, with Rafael, I think, he's looked brilliant, and particularly recently. I thought he was their best player against Spezia the other night. Just looks really dangerous, and actually, almost from the word go, actually, him and Zlatan Ibrahimovic's kind of link-up play has always been really strong, I think. For him to be kind of learning off Zlatan, although he plays a slightly different position, but for him to kind of be linking up with him in that way, I think it's been really positive for him. I would be a bit worried about that. And I do think, ultimately, I don't think Milan's issue is necessarily going forward. They have this crisis in their defence at the moment, which I think needs sorting. Because, losses like the one the other night, are just not, that's not going to win you a title, essentially.
And they could have gone top with a win as well.
Yeah, so I think that's where they really lacked, and both goals were well worked by Spezia, but I think better defences stopped them, especially late in the game. And they've been linked with just about everyone this month, haven't they? Whether that be like Abdou Diallo, who I think would be a really good pickup for them. They've even been linked with Japhet Tanganga. I'm not sure how likely he is to leave Spurs at this point, although I guess Joe Rodon's no closer to leaving seemingly, so maybe they would allow him to go on loan. Who else? I feel like they've been linked with every centre-back who is kind of maybe available, along with Borussia Dortmund, because obviously they have a bit of a crisis themselves as well. I think that would be where I would target personally, just because I think there is enough in that attack. You've got someone like Brahim Diaz, who's had a great season as well. Obviously, Zlatan continues to produce when he is fit. And also the midfield is in a bit of a mess as well. So, I think the attack is not necessarily where they need to put their resources. And even if Hazard was available and was up for it, they'd probably still have to cover at least half his wages, right? Which is just, I think, still just a bit too much for them to use up. But I think he would, I mean, he's certainly the kind of signing that would give a lift to that squad for sure. Like you were saying, in terms of the experience that he brings, we saw what Zlatan did when he went there in 2020. So, kind of hypothetically, it would be very exciting. Yeah,
it's interesting about that Spezia defeat. They were sloppy as well, but then Teo Hernandez missed that penalty as well. And then they were really unfortunate because Junior Messiah scored a perfectly legitimate goal, but the referee had already blown his whistle and forgot to play advantage on that. Who was it? Rebic making a break down the left or something. It was just a bit of a disastrous Monday night for Milan. So as we've said, it's a very inexperienced team. I think Henry mentioned it earlier, only 2 of their 11 most used players are over the age of 27. So if Hazard was to get the option there, maybe it's not the worst move. Guys, let us know, do you think Hazard to Milan is a good idea or a bad idea? Let's move on to our next one, which was suggested by @Daniel_Root, who is a friend of the channel. And he was saying, actually, he didn't specify this one. He just said a right back to Real Madrid. and we're going to put forward Noussair Mazraoui of Ajax. But McCubs, there has been, there is a bit of a need for a right back because Carvajal's body, poor guy.
Yeah, and he was pretty good actually when he's played this year, hasn't he? But yeah, he just can't really catch a break in the last few years. Missed 17 games in 15-16, 9 games in 16-17, 13 games in 17-18, and then last season basically missed the whole season, didn't he? So I was going to read out every.
You get the idea.
Yeah, get the
idea.
Lot
of games.
I think on average, what have you put down here? 14 games missed per season on average. So, he's just not reliable fitness-wise, and I think that's why a lot of Real Madrid fans were pretty upset at the sale of Achraf Hakimi, because I think he was obviously seen as someone who could step into that
side now.
Yeah, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Him going down the right, linking up with Rodrigo, and actually would make that attack a lot better balanced, because they now do have the answer with Vinicius, and that right side is definitely the weaker side of their attack, isn't it? So
I think he'd bring out a lot of that out of Asensio as well, with Asensio cutting in and
for sure.
Hakimi going for the overlap. I think that'd be
That's
lovely.
true. So yeah, he would have been great, but obviously that's that ship has sailed. Although actually, Achraf Hakimi, I feel like his agent is constantly trying to.
I think it's his
He'll be
dream.
on the again,
It's his dream to play for Real Madrid still.
Oh, really?
By all accounts, he's
What is
unhappy.
he, 23, 24? He's still
Yeah,
got time.
I think his plan is one day to go back because he feels he's got unfinished business there.
He certainly does, and I feel like, I don't know, I can't remember the name of his agent, but he's always kicking up a fuss. And I think he wasn't best friends with Zidane. Obviously that era's over now. So in that sense, maybe there is an opportunity, but Noussair Mazraoui, he's a free agent in the summer, which is obviously a plus. And has been a very consistent performer for Ajax over the last few years. He's one of the few players who survived or stayed at Ajax since that 18-19 season, when they were obviously on absolute flames. Real need a backup, because Lucas Vazquez can't really do it on his own, I don't think. I mean, he has been really, really good, since he kind of took up that right-back position last year and has been filling it again more recently. But yeah, aside from him and Carvajal, there isn't really anyone, and I'm not an expert on La Fabrica. I don't know if there's someone coming through the youth ranks who's impressive. So any Real Madrid fans, feel free to let us know in the comments if there is. But yeah, at the moment they're particularly light in that area, aren't they? And Mazraoui kind of offers, quite a well-rounded option in terms of his defensive numbers have always been quite solid. Going forward, he's really good. He creates three chances a game at current. He completes nearly 2 dribbles, and obviously, as we've seen with someone like Serginho Dest, it's the step up from the Eredivisie can be quite a tough one. So there's no guarantees, but he does seem quite a good value option for Real if they want to back up.
Yeah, he'd be really interesting. I actually suggested him for Man United when we did 3 right backs to fix Man United in our latest How to Fix Man United, but we went for a certain position. I suggested Giovanni Di Lorenzo, Tariq Lamptey and Mazraoui. And Mazraoui was actually my favourite pick, I think. Even though he is currently out with an injury as well, which is a little bit disappointing because he's had some injuries over the last couple of years, not to Carvajal's extent, and then got a really solid run of games together at the start of this season, then picked up, I think he's out with a thigh injury at the moment, which is a little bit damaging if he's trying to get that massive contract at a new club. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Mazraoui. Are you a fan of that potential move, Henry?
I was just thinking, when we did the How to Fix Everton, I recommended him for them as well.
He's becoming the new Depay / Berardi,
isn't he?
quality
player who's out of contract. It kind of makes sense.
That's why he's half appeared on our channel quite a lot recently. But I mean, obviously Everton meant for Nathan Patterson instead. But listen, I am a little bit sceptical about players coming out of the Eredivisie. I agree. I love Frenkie de Jong, but for some reason he's getting sort of criticised at the moment. De Ligt's had a bit of a mixed career. Even, we're seeing Tadic. I thought he was pretty decent for Southampton, but he's excelling back in the Netherlands.
Henbash was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, he was really poor for Brighton.
Kind, but yeah.
And I was quite excited about him coming over. Obviously,
Jürgen Locadia came out of the Eredivisie as well, I think,
he was disappointing.
Brighton, yeah.
I mean, so I'm not applying that to every rule, but I just think Ten Hag is the reason that a lot of these Ajax players have been elevated to a certain level, and they've done Dumfries to give him his dues coming from PSV. he's been pretty good.
Much better, yeah.
Over at Inter Milan. So yeah, Mazraoui, sure, why not? I think, injury issues as well, which is slightly concerning. I still think Vasquez is a pretty decent option when played at right back. I think he was really good for them last season, wasn't he? I think he got a new contract, exactly. He's such an important utility player to that squad. But I mean, I don't think there's any pressure on Mazraoui to be a starter if he goes there. I think they'd be doing him a favour bringing him over there. But I don't know what their finances are at the moment. I think they must be pretty healthy if they're based on the bids they're throwing around last summer. So if they really wanted to go out and get someone like Mazraoui, I think they could do that because he's made it clear that it's unlikely he's going to be staying at Ajax. He's an exciting attacking defender, and that might suit sort of Madrid's front foot first attacking mentality. So yeah, I'm just a little sceptical about players coming out of the Eredivisie. So let's see.
Okay.
I do think in some ways, like Madrid can rely on, as long as Vasquez stays injury-free, I do kind of feel like he could be the answer to that position for the next 2-3 years while they try and go out and get a long-term replacement. Having said that, if Carvajal suddenly becomes reliable again, he'll obviously take that place. But I do think it's really a backup option they need, because I think in almost every other area of the squad they have world-class players, right?
Quite good depth as well.
And like the midfield in particular, you've got really exciting players who are going to take the places of Modric and Kroos in the next few years. So right back, I feel like although it could be a problem in years to come, at the moment they are dealing with it. So it's not. Yeah, they don't need to go out and get like some super exciting right back, like someone like with Mazraoui's kind of profile seems to be quite good in the backup sense.
Yeah, they've made some unfortunate decisions in that position as well, because obviously they sold Hakimi eventually after loaning him to Dortmund, and then bought Odriozola as well, and that didn't really work out at all. And now he's at Fiorentina. I don't think he's pulling up any trees there by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, a right back this summer wouldn't be a bad idea, but I can see Florentino Perez getting a little bit swept up in the whole Mbappe-Haaland, search, as it were.
Tic-tac.
I can see them going for both of them, even though that probably won't materialise. But yeah, let's move on to a player for Benfica, which was suggested by Julio Samaus, 37. Regularly gets on me on Twitter, Julio, for criticising Cristiano Ronaldo, if I ever do. But yeah, he wants us to talk about Youssef Attal going to Benfica. He clearly doesn't rate Benfica's current right back, who is called Gilberto, who I know absolutely nothing about. But Youssef Attal is a player that's been on Football Daily's radar for quite a while. He's been a regular at Nice since 2018-19. Massive defensive output. I think it's close to 6 tackles and interceptions per 90, which is really exceptional. Anything above 3.5 for a fullback is really pretty good. This season, he's been slightly hampered by injury. I don't think Christophe Galtier necessarily favours him as much as previous managers did as well. But yeah, he'd be a good pickup for Benfica. I don't know whether Nice to Benfica is probably the move he wants to make. I imagine he has been linked with Premier League sides in the past, particularly Spurs. They don't seem particularly enamoured with Emerson, although there is talk of Adama Traore going there as well. And he'd be sort of a Hakimi light sort of esque signing for Conte, I suppose. I don't particularly rate Adama Traore, but I can see what he's trying to do there. But yeah, Youssef Attal to Benfica could be an option. But in terms of the title race in Portugal, Benfica aren't really in it. I think they're 9 points behind Porto at the moment. And Sporting CP are actually only 3 points back. But it's Sporting CP that probably could make the biggest move in this window in terms of strengthening their cause for the title. Because they've scored 14 fewer goals than Porto, and actually 16 fewer than Benfica. Paulinho, a bit of a throwback there, is their top scorer with 6 goals. So I don't know a lot about this player, but there's a guy called Valentin Castellanos, who's a 23-year-old right winger and striker who has excellent stats for New York City FC in the MLS. MLS fans, please let us know what this guy is like, but I was really impressed by his numbers. 22 goals and 8 assists in 32 games in 2021. Haven't heard a lot about him, only 23 as well. So guys, MLS fans, let us know whether that'd be a good pickup for Sporting CP, because Pote or Pedro Gonçalves hasn't had as lethal a year in front of goal as he did last year. I think he's on 5 goals and 5 assists, which isn't too bad. But yeah, let us know about Castellanos, maybe a good suggestion there. 2 quick ones to wrap up this section. Steven Bergwijn to Ajax. This was suggested by EuroExpert_. Shout out the Euro expert. And Donny Van De Beek to Inter Milan, suggested by BraveHus24. Now, Henry, Bergwijn to Ajax has been talked about all month, but it seems unlikely that Conte is going to sell him now. He was, lavishing praise on him last night after that 2-goal display.
Well, I mean, of course he would do. He subbed him on, the guy scored twice. You can't, first one, fair to him, the second goal was a good run in behind and managed to slot it home.
Yeah.
Was a good finish. So a lot of respect. I'm pleased for Steven Bergwijn as well. I think that's now 11 goals in his time at Tottenham, which actually his goals for the minutes that he's actually started are a lot better than people give him credit for, and assists too. He's just looked like a player devoid of confidence. And prior to last night, this is a completely different landscape, because we're talking about just 2 goals that maybe could have changed everything. But the reality is, prior to that, it did look like he was going back to Ajax. Obviously sold David Neres to Shakhtar Donetsk. I think that's maybe a move that he wants to make. Go back, build some confidence a bit more, score some goals, play for a big team like Ajax. I actually really like this.
Spurs fans fuming right now.
I like this recommendation from Euroexpert. I think that Spurs want to bring in Adama Traore. That's more for the right wing back role, and I actually think that'd be an amazing move, Traore to Spurs. I just think under Conte he could really do some damage. If we saw what he did to Victor Moses, etc., I'd love to see that. Just quickly, Emerson Royale, I think that'd be an interesting pickup for someone looking for a right back. He obviously just really struggling at Spurs. For a loan deal, maybe for Madrid, maybe for Benfica.
What about Matt Doherty to Benfica?
No. Hold your horses there, Dukes. Yeah, but I think Emerson Royale is a right back option which could fill the Madrid or Benfica void, in terms of quite clearly a good player, was at Betis, hasn't had nearly the kind of impact he's had at Tottenham that we were expecting. So yeah, that's maybe one to think about too. But yeah, Bergwijn, yeah, I would like to see him. I'd like to see that move to Ajax happen, or stay at Spurs and really get some minutes on his belt. Really throw an arm around him and say you're going to get an opportunity, because Spurs do need some support other than Kane and Son up front. And I always thought Bergwijn was going to be the one. He scored that amazing goal, didn't he, on his debut
against City.
I remember seeing that in the all or nothing thing. It was very exciting, and it just hasn't really kicked on from him from then on in. But I think we were expecting Donny Marlon, and we haven't quite had that. So let's see what happens the next.
He seemed like a very sweet guy in that All or Nothing documentary as well, moving over with his family and everything. I want it to work out for Steven Bergwijn. McCubs, quickly, where are we on the Donny Van De Beek situation? Still hasn't got regular minutes under Ralph Rangnick. Is it just got to sell him?
I mean, probably this summer, yeah. I mean, if he's not getting minutes under a second manager in a row, the manager who, in theory, should be more inclined to play a player of Van De Beek's profile, it's quite depressing, and it suggests to me that perhaps Van De Beek is not the player that we kind of thought he was when signed by United. There must be something going on in training or whatever that there's a reason that he doesn't play. Maybe it is a stylistic thing, but equally, when you're not being played against teams who aren't necessarily going to be putting your defence under pressure all the time, then I don't really see a reason why a box-to-box guy like Van De Beek would not get minutes. So yeah, it's a bit concerning. This link with Inter Milan would be kind of interesting. Although I don't know whether he's necessarily the exact kind of player that they need. Like their midfield is very stacked. It's not the most youthful midfield, and it would be cool to see him and Barella in the same midfield. But equally, I don't know whether that gives. Oh, maybe not actually. I think Van de Beek does have decent defensive output, so maybe that would work. But equally, Barella is more in that kind of mould of a midfielder, and whether Inter actually need someone like that, or whether they'd be better off maybe strengthening at left wing back long term, or finding a long term kind of backup to kind of Bastoni, say, who I imagine could maybe get a big move in the next couple of years, would maybe be better for them. But in terms of this season, maybe a midfield reinforcement would do them good, because obviously it's a long season and there might be injuries. But I'm not sure what their injury situation is at the moment, so I'm not ignorant in that front.
Go on, Henry.
Oh no, I would just love to see him play football. I think it's so important. He needs to go somewhere. I don't even know if Inter Milan's the level he needs to go to. I think he needs to just go somewhere, maybe with a clear void, and even sort of 8th to 6th, or in Serie A, that could be the kind of place that he needs to go around and just prove to everyone what he can do, because he's still so early in his career, and all it needs is 6 months just to sort of light that spark again. And I think we could see the player that we were expecting to see at United. Just a quick one for the Scottish football fans out there. I was having a look about who Rangers could sign to win the league. And they've been linked with Skov Olsen from Bologna, who's like a winger. I actually think it's quite an interesting one. He doesn't get many minutes at Bologna at the moment. He's only 22, but he scored like 5 goals and 3 assists in the qualifiers for Denmark. So I think under Van Bronckhorst that could be good. Or there's Jens Odgaard, who's on Sassuolo on loan at RKC in the Eredivisie. He's on 7 goals and 2 assists this year, another 22-year-old Dane. I think these are the kind of niche pickups that we're seeing in Scotland. Celtic are buying everyone in Japan right now, and Rangers need to sort of
go Scandi.
Yeah, need to go Scandi to catch up. So yeah, that's one for the Scottish fans out there. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I totally agree about Donny Van De Beek just getting out there to play football. It seems like he's just going to play for Everton at some stage in his career. It does. That just feels absolutely nailed on.
Dortmund
guys,
would be a good place for him to go, I think.
Dortmund would be awesome. Regularly injured midfielders as well. Guys, what is your signings to win your side the title? Yes, that's what we were talking about. What did you think of our suggestions? Get your own in the comments down below, and let's move on to our big match predictions. Right, let's get into big match predictions. Off camera, we've been talking about Darwin Núñez's new haircut. Anyway, last week, Atalanta versus Inter Milan. I went for 2-1 to Inter, my Cubs went 2-1 Atalanta, Henry went 2-2, and the final score was 0-0. Despite being furthest away with the goals prediction, Henry gets a point there, which is frustrating, but hey-ho. Marseille versus Lille, I went 1-1, my Cubs went 2-2, Henry went 2-1 Lille. The final score was 1-1, so I get 3 points, my Cubs gets 1, Henry gets 0.
Robbed by red card. That's what, Benjamin Andre red card, otherwise.
Dortmund versus Freiburg, that was that mental game on Friday night, finished 5-1. None of us got that right. But I did predict a Dortmund win, as did Henry, so we get a point each. My Cubs, I'm afraid, went for a 1-1 draw, so no points there. So scores on the doors as of last week. My Cubs is on 10 now, Henry is on 20, and myself is also on 20. Myself, that's not a good English at all. Anyway, there's a tie at the top. So these are big, important predictions coming up right now. First one we're going to do, AC Milan versus Juventus. Oh, big game. Sunday, 7:45, second versus fourth in Serie A. Milan are currently 7 points ahead. The Cubs, we've already talked about Milan, but Juve have picked up a little bit of form recently.
Yeah, man. Allegri's back, baby. Not quite, but you know they're in a really good. Yeah, they look like they have quite a good chance of challenging for the top 4 now, which is, I think, something they would have. I think all Juve fans would have hoped for, even after that kind of disastrous first couple of months of the season. They've got the squad there. Like I have confidence that they could do it. Equally, that top 4 are all still very much in the title race, I think. So at least points wise. So yeah, it's going to be a really competitive last 3 months of the season, I think. Say that, it's probably still 4 or 5 months left, isn't there? But nevertheless, I think it's going to be really exciting to watch. And yeah, Juve have picked up some good form. I think the last time they lost in the league was back in November. I think that lost to Atalanta, if I'm not mistaken. So unbeaten in their last 10, and Allegri's been a bit more fluid with the formations, which is good to see. He was very rigid with that 4-4-2 before, but he's experimented a bit more with a 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. Actually has kind of gone back to a 4-4-2. He's been using Kulusevski behind the striker a bit as well. So it's been nice to see him get more minutes recently. Obviously Chiesa out with that huge injury, which is a big blow for them for sure, but equally he wasn't having the best season. Anyway, I think it was only 1 goal and 1 assist, wasn't it, until that. But yeah, they've just looked a lot more solid, and they're just picking up. They're picking up the kind of marginal wins that they were missing out on earlier in the season. Their goals per game have gone up to nearly 2 from 1.3. Their defence has held really firm. I think even at the start of the season, defensively they were still pretty good, and it was kind of Szczesny letting them down with a few mistakes that was kind of costing them games. And yeah, compared to a lot of the teams around them, their defence, it still looks really impressive. And they've been, I guess, fairly lucky in terms of injuries until now in that sense. Bonucci's out for this game. But nevertheless, yeah, I feel like Juve have a really good chance to take something off quite a depleted Milan side. I do fancy their chances in this game.
Okay, score prediction?
I'm going to go for 2-1 to Juve.
Great start to big match predictions.
Dybala's back on really good form as well recently. I think that makes a big difference, doesn't it?
I was going to say, it's great to see him. I think when Chiesa is out, Dybala, and he's fully fit and he's confident, Dybala just takes on so much more creative burden in the side, gets far more touches, and gets in much more dangerous areas as well. I'm not saying they can't work well together because they're two excellent players, but I do think Dybala just really stands out when he's made to be that main man. And you saw his angry reaction to that goal last weekend, just staring up at the Juve board after they said they weren't sure whether they're going to give him that new deal as well. From a Milan perspective, Henry, who are they don't have Kessie, they don't have Benacer, they are playing Radi Krunic in midfield, they've lost their two centre-backs. Can you see them getting a win in this?
I can't see them getting a win, but I certainly think I can see them getting a point. I actually think this will be a pretty dull game. I think it'll be a 1-1 is 1-1 is what I'd go for on this one. The holes in that squad are too great, as you just pointed out. But I mean, in the Spezia game, they did still look pretty impressive. I actually don't. Obviously, you can blame the ref. He held his hands up straight away. He knew exactly that it was unfortunate that Macias put that bang in the top corner. But it's not his fault that they then went and conceded in the last minute against Spezia. Like that is
very open.
That is on AC Milan. That's their fault. They missed a penalty as well. That's as bad as what the ref did, as far as I'm concerned. So I respect the ref for owning up to that. So AC Milan, clearly that's a big hiccup in their title challenge. But yeah, like you said, I think Juventus look good. I'm going to go for a 1-1 here. I can see them scoring, but I certainly can't see. I think they just sort of shut down pretty early doors.
It's got 3 points for Henry written all over it.
This does, yeah. I'm a bit annoyed that he's gone 1-1 because I feel bad for going for that as well. I think it's going to be, a lot of it's going to be on Teo. He'll be wanting to bounce back from that penalty miss. I think he's such a unique player because he's a sort of left back, that doesn't really hug the touchline at all. He just runs like a steam train through the heart of people's defences. I think
my favourite type of player, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Just goes for it,
Marcelo
direct.
style.
Juan Cuadrado might have a tough game against him. I'm going to go 1-0 Milan. No, I don't even want to say that. I'm going 1-0 Milan. Fine.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Scorelines.
Okay, a lot of different scorelines. So let's move on to our second game, which is Atletico Madrid versus Valencia. Henry's tipped for fourth a couple of weeks ago. Well, could still happen. That's Saturday night, 8 p.m. So get to set your alarms for that one. It's 4th versus 10th. Atleti are only 5 points ahead. So it could happen, Henry. It could happen. We're not ruling it out. McCubs, what are we thinking about? Actually, no, you kicked off last time. I think it's only fair that Henry gets his first prediction in, or his prediction in first, I should say. Henry, what do you think?
Why don't you go first in this one, Dukes? What do you think?
Okay, well, I think Valencia, I haven't really taken much interest in Valencia over the last few years. I do find them quite dull to watch. I do enjoy some of their players. I think Gonzalo Guedes, Carlos Soler's really stepped up in the last few years, but I'm not enamoured by their defending quality as well. Diakhaby, I still struggle to believe that he's at Valencia, to be totally honest. For Atletico Madrid, there's been talk about Suarez going to Aston Villa this week, which
crazy.
I might prove to look like an idiot by tomorrow, but that just seems like an absolute bonkers headline, as if that would ever happen. I am thinking for this one, it's going to be down to Angel Correa, who's really stepped up in recent weeks. I'm going to go for a scrappy 2-1 win for Atletico Madrid.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Valencia played well. They got a draw against Sevilla earlier this week. I still think this is as good as they've been in years in many ways. Certainly since, Marcelinho had them playing pretty well.
Since the great days of Gary Neville.
Since the great days of Gary Neville. Marcelinho had them up and running, and I think Nuno took them to, 4th in his time there. But other than that, it's all been a bit of a flop.
It's been some big money.
If we were talking about this in the editorial, if there's any Valencia fans out there that knows the situation with the new Mestalla, is it Mestalla? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then please do let us know, because I'd love to know what exactly is going on with their stadium. But I'm going to go for a 1-1. I just think Atletico Madrid, their run of form hasn't been great. They didn't look good in the Supercopa. So I think Valencia could sneak a point here. The only thing is, it is at the Wanda. I still think Valencia are going to finish in the top 6 this season. But maybe top 4 was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, there was I was watching the highlights of their game against Villarreal, which was actually before they left for the Supercopa. Atletico Madrid, and there was another error from Jan Oblak there as well, which is just a bit disappointing, but an unreal goal from Angel Correa from the halfway line. McCubs, what are your thoughts for this one?
Yeah, I kind of echo what Henry's saying, to be honest. I think, Valencia have been a more solid outfit, I think, this season than in seasons past, especially compared to last year. And Atleti, are some way off the level that we've seen them, even kind of this time last year, aren't they? I feel like we've spoken a lot about that. But yeah, actually I had 1-1 in my mind before, and I'm not going to budge on it.
Love it.
Because I think I was going to tip Valencia for a win, but I just think I still think the
madness.
Wander's still a hard place to go to. I think they've only lost once there this season. And I think they've only conceded like 6 goals there compared to like 18 away in similar games. So, I think I think they'll still be able to get a point, but I think it'll be a tough game for Atleti.
Yeah, I think Valencia got thrashed by Real Madrid a couple of weeks ago as well. But I think last year, did they get a shock result against? Was it against
They
Real
were
Madrid?
playing well against Real Madrid until they started conceding. Like they had them on the back foot quite a lot. It wasn't the scoreline was deceptive.
Why don't you just marry Valencia?
It's a lovely part of the world. It's a lovely city. I'd happily go. So yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, that's our predictions for the second game. Let's wrap up with Leipzig versus Wolfsburg. Two teams struggling this year somewhat, both in the Champions League at the early parts of this year, but they're now 7th and 14th. Leipzig are 7 points ahead. Henry, reasonable start from Domenico Tedesco.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm more confident about going for a Leipzig victory in this one. Played 5, won 3, drew 1, lost 1, scored 11, conceded 5. That's pretty solid form. They've gone from 14th to 7th. I mean, there weren't that much points separating those positions anyway, so it's not a shock to see a slight.
And there's not a lot between 7th and like 3rd now.
And they've got the squad. I mean, I think the sporting director Leipzig was right when he said we have a team which should be playing at the very top of the Bundesliga. And I think Tedesco, with his bit more attention to detail, let's say, he's helping turn them around. I'm really pleased to see him using Andre Silva in the correct way, because that was the big gripe of his time under Jesse Marsch, is that he was just asking him to be a completely different style of forwards than what he was certainly at Eintracht Frankfurt, which is the reason why they bought him. But he scored 3 in his final. He only scored 3 in his final 10 games under the American Marsch, and he's got 5 and 5 under Tedesco, only failing to score against Emilia. So I'm pleased for him more than anything. So yeah, I mean, I just think they're going to be too much for a Wolfsburg side, which look completely devoid of confidence this season. It's just all gone wrong really for them. I think their big guy up front, what's it?
Wout
Weghorst, big fan of him. I think such a big fan I can't remember his name. but no, I think he's going to be out the door at the end of the season. Doesn't look like he wants to sign on any longer. So yeah, I'm going to go for 3-0.
3-0. I was thinking 3-0 as well. I won't go 3-0 though. McCubs, yeah. Wolfsburg, weird season. Mark Van Bommel sacked very early on. Then they've got this new guy in, Dominic Kofeld, and they've just not improved.
It hasn't improved at all, and it's a shame because there's a promising squad there, isn't there? Some
Florian Kofeld, I should say, not Dominic. Sorry.
That's very good. Florian versus Dominic, but this weekend. But I think it's a shame. I can't say I've like followed them that much since Van Bommel's sacking, but 2 wins out of 10 is really poor. Especially with a side that was qualifying for Champions League last year. I think Van Bommel was a weird appointment for them last summer. I think we were all pretty much in agreement with that out of the kind of merry-go-round, they'd probably got the kind of strangest, or the appointment didn't make much sense. And he actually started quite well, I seem to. I think they won like the first 3. And so
were they top? I think they might be top.
Yeah, so like it's been a bit of a drop off for them. And like Henry was saying, Weghorst hasn't had as good a season as he has last year. I think finishing has had something to do with that. I think his kind of expected goals and whatnot isn't actually too far off where he was last season, but his finishing certainly has been. Like 6 goals in 17 appearances isn't great when the rest of the side is struggling as well. I think it's going to be a very comprehensive Leipzig victory. I think they've come into really good form.
You're going to see 4 goals? What are you thinking?
I was thinking, originally I was thinking 3-0. I might go 4-0.
Our Bundesliga predictions have been so bad recently.
Yeah. Topsy-turvy league. Very difficult to predict. A lot of inconsistency in there. You've gone 3-0 and 4-0. I'll go 3-1. Not too different. But yeah, Wolfsburg, very weird club at the moment. Let's move on to quickfire questions then. We did have a couple of good ones, but there's been some breaking news today on Thursday that we better react to. It's the Ousmane Dembele news. He's been told that he needs to get out of the club by the end of January, which is quite weird terminology. Henry, what do you make of this? I mean, there's very weird reports about him going to Chelsea, which I don't think is very likely. Where's he going to go? What does he do next?
I kind of understand the frustration. Mathieu Alemany just said, that's enough. If you don't want to be here, you're gone. You're gone this January. I think Dembele's been, and his agent, who sounds like, I don't want to say he sounds like a bit of a budget agent, but he's certainly been chancing it a little bit. I think they've just messed around. I think they need to remember, although Barcelona are a low point right now, they're still Barcelona. I think they've maybe pushed it a bit too far. 15 million euros. I don't think his transfer market value is much higher than that actually at the moment. To Chelsea would be really weird. I actually put this out on the Eurofootball Daily comms feeds, and a lot of people said that he shouldn't go. Liverpool was the one that people voted for most, or to stay at Barcelona. It was one of those Liverpool or beyond. So I think I included Chelsea. I included Chelsea and United and Bayern in that as well. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I'm not sure. I actually think United would be a strange one. I think they should probably focus on Sancho. Chelsea, they've got so many good players already. I think Dembele's really shot himself in the foot, not extending here. I think this is really poor, and I'm not surprised to see such a strong reaction by the Barcelona board. Enough's enough.
Yeah. Strange though to they bought Griezmann for 120. He's now playing on loan at Atleti. They bought Coutinho for 140. He's playing on loan at Aston Villa, and now another £100 million signings going for a pittance. I know that's not their current. That's not Laporta's fault. But it's just a sad state of affairs. I mean, where's it going to end up? Newcastle?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
probably.
I mean, you wouldn't put it past them, would you? I mean, they'd probably pay his wages. The problem is, like Dembele really needs to go to like Italy or maybe back to Germany or maybe to France. I feel like that's
any nation.
Well, yeah, for sure. I think like another top 5 league. I don't see any Premier League club, although those are the clubs that can afford his wages in particular. I'm not saying that because we're kind of we're in England or whatever. It's not like an exceptional thing, but like Premier League clubs just do have more money to throw around. I think those are the leagues where he needs to, where he could kind of refine himself potentially. I mean, even like PSG in the summer, if Mbappe leaves, I don't think would be a bad shout for Dembele. I feel like that's a club where kind of superstar players who have struggled have kind of found better homes at points. Slightly less pressure, playing with really good players. There's a bit more room to express yourself there, I think. Although there are obviously downsides to playing for PSG as well. But it's just a sad situation. I think for the player as well. Like I think, to be honest, out of all the crazy transfers that Barcelona have made over the last few years, I think Ousmane Dembele was one that actually at the time made the most sense. Yeah. And I think, if he hadn't had those injury problems, which then, on top of that brought a lot of media speculation over attitude, etc., I think he could have been a real star at the Camp Nou, and it's just sad to see what it's ended up with, because you even had Xavi, speaking him up as one of the best players in the world when he came through the door in November, and 3 months later he's been given his marching orders. So it's just a bit of a sad situation, I think. Yeah. The thing about when they signed Dembele, I think they rejected Mbappe to sign Dembele. Well, they had the choice between the two, and on such decisions, careers live and die, and Dembele's has pretty much died at the age of 24. It's really quite sad. I do think he's timed this. I'm kind of with Henry. I think he's timed this very poorly, because it's not like he's been in great form recently. He's not going to have loads of suitors. I would have just signed a brief extension to that deal and look to move in the summer. But yeah, guys, where do you think Dembele will end up? I think he'll probably go to Newcastle. I can't really see any other Premier League club going for him. He's on enormous wages. It's going to be really difficult for him to go anywhere else. But that is all we've got time for on Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you very much to the East Dutch Tavern for having us. Thank you very much to James Wayne behind the camera for filming us. McCubs, what should they go and watch now? On the subject of £100 million players, we did an Explained on FD, I believe, last week. Go and check that out. That's quite interesting. Explained, and go and check out the podcast as well, because we were all on it. So if you want more, but if you basically want to watch Continental Club again, just go and watch that. And we're talking about.
And we made it nice and European as well.
We did make it nice and European.
That was good.
So go and show that some love.
Yeah, we took over the Football Daily podcast for this week. Henry, anything else you'd like to push to?
Gosh, I made a 10 players your club will be forced to sell.
Juicy.
Which
very 2017 Football Daily title.
We'll see how many of those come true. So,
like it. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.